Suppose you joined band because you needed to fill your schedule for high school, or because you needed the hours for college to keep your scholarship. You've always had an appreciation for music, and you've always wanted to take a band class, but you have no musical background. You don't know how to read music or how to write music. This has happened to several of my friends, and I've had to give them a crash course on how to read music. Today I'd like to teach you how to read music by naming notes, learning the clefs, and know which instrument plays which clef. Modern music uses two clefs, the treble clef and the bass clef. Clef is a French word meaning key, and this is cited from Wikipedia, and they cited Georges Bandoline. There are only two clefs remaining in music, though music has seen many clefs. They have been the French violin clef, the baritone clef, and the sub-bass clef, just to name a few. An exception to this two-clef rule is the neutral clef, which can also be called the percussion clef because it is used for drums who do not have notes but they have pitches. The treble clef is for notes that are higher, that sound higher than notes on the bass clef. Now let's learn the names of the notes. The musical alphabet uses the letters A through G to name their notes. And music is written on a staff, which consists of 5 lines and 4 spaces, which kind of resembles your hand turned to its side. The treble clef is called the G clef because it is written on the line for G. To know the names of the lines for this clef are E, G, B, D, and F. And an acronym to remember this is Every Good Boy Does Fine. For an acronym and the spaces for this clef are F, A, C, and E. And you can remember this by using the word face. The bass clef, which notes are lower, is also called the F clef because the clef is written on the line for F. Now, the names of the lines and the spaces are different from the treble clef, from the bass clef to the treble clef. Here, the names of the lines are G, B, D, F, and A. An acronym to remember this one is Good Boys Do Fine Always. Now, the spaces are A, C, E, and F. G. An acronym to remember this one is All Cows Eat Grass. Now, an instrument can play notes that are higher or lower above the written staff. And to prevent the use for 2 staffs for one instrument, music uses lines which are called ledger lines. Here on the treble clef, after F, is a note G, which is written right above the staff, and we use another line which extends the staff, and it's a short little line, and then if a note is written on here, the note name is A. Now, you know that this is the treble clef and this is the bass clef, and I'm sure you're wondering which instrument plays on which clef. Let's find out. Instruments that play on the treble clef tend to be smaller instruments. A small theory some musicians like to tell their younger band students is the smaller the instrument, the higher the sound. Instruments that play in the treble clef include the flute, the clarinet, the oboe, saxophone, trumpet, French horn, and the xylophone. It's somewhat easy to think of most instruments that play on the treble clef are woodwind instruments, which are instruments that were made from wood, prior to modern times. And bass instruments include the baritone, euphonium, it's the same instrument, they just use different names sometimes, the trombone, the tuba, the timpani, and the bassoon. So in conclusion, we have learned that there have been many clefs in music, but only two are used today, the treble clef and the bass clef. An exception is the neutral clef for percussionists. We've also learned that the musical alphabet uses the letters A through G to name the notes of music, and that each instrument plays in one clef. Though the instrument can play notes outside its clef, music uses ledger lines to extend the clef. And we also learned which instrument plays on which clef. Ooh, that was a long